everyone, my name's Emily, and I hope you're doing okay. This video will serve as an intro to this channel and give a little info about me. Given my recent illness I'm recovering from, I can't really film myself at the moment because I'm not exactly presentable. I don't necessarily have a cool setup just yet, but we'll see what happens when I'm 100%. I've been on social media for a long time, and I practically live on YouTube, so why am I doing videos now? Well, as mentioned, since early April, I've been sick. I thought it was food poisoning, and then I was diagnosed with GERD, or GERD, which is essentially a condition where you have a lot of acid reflux from your stomach and up your esophagus. It felt like my stomach was being eaten from the inside out. Yeah. Anyway, I started treatment, but the doctor seemed to think I possibly had an ulcer, but luckily I've gotten a lot better after over a month of struggling to recover. I've gone from hardly being able to eat anything the first 2 weeks to eating regularly with few side effects. During this time, I realized there were a lot of things I wanted to do, but didn't, like publish a book or do videos, but I was held back by anxiety, which I'll get into. After getting so sick, I've decided you only live once, and I can't just wait to do things that make me happy, because there may be times I won't be able to function and do what I love. Yeah, so also, I have GAD, or Generalized Anxiety Disorder. This means anything from bad news to a grilled cheese sandwich makes my brain act out. Luckily, in the past year, my anxiety and depression have pretty much not been that difficult to manage, but I still have anxiety at the thought of performing in front of others. My public speaking skills have actually improved, but I still feel nervous when thinking about how I look and sound. If I talk too fast or too quietly, I apologize, and am working on it. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. I'm also a bit of a perfectionist, and I think about how all the YouTube creators I admire have progressed, but I'm always worried at starting off not as good as I could be. I want to start off great, and I've had to let go of some of that fear. When I told others that I was considering doing videos, I was often told I'd be better writing blogs instead, since writing is my passion, so I shied away from doing videos because of others' opinions. I think I was afraid of disappointing my friends by having them think I only do videos because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do, or it's what's popular, which is by no means why I've wanted to do them. However, there are some ideas I feel like I can articulate better when talking in a video essay format than when writing, and I have a lot of fun with a more audio-visual medium. I also have this weird thing I didn't realize I had, even though I have heard people talk about it, but I'm one of those people who loses interest in doing something once I've told someone about a project. I'm not sure why that is. I only can't write during October through March, though I'll write up a storm in the other months. As for losing interest, I'm not sure why that is. I think the most logical explanation is other people's expectations, which is why I tend to like advancing on projects in secret. It adds a little danger to it, you know? So, a little bit about me. I'm a grad student. I'm working toward a master's in professional writing with a main concentration in applied writing, technical stuff, and a secondary concentration in creative writing. I work on my department's newsletter, and I also coordinate an editorial team and tell writers what they'll be writing about. I enjoy it quite a bit. I graduated in December 2017 with a BA in English with a minor in creative writing, so I'm a literature nerd. I actually enjoy analyzing literature a lot, but I decided to pursue a more digital media focused field because if I went to graduate school with literature as my focus, as much as I love it, I'm not sure I'd be able to get a teaching position anytime soon, nor am I sure I could be that good of a professor. I eventually had an internship doing social media, and I loved it so much I was hired to be the social media coordinator for a semester. And I definitely feel like this experience helped me land my job as an editor. So, English majors, if there's a will, there's a way. I'm also a writer of mostly fiction. I'll get into that later. And I'm also an avid reader. What do I read? Well, mostly horror and fantasy. A lot more adult than young adult. I do enjoy YA, but recently I've been kind of disillusioned by some of the more popular YA. Recent YA books I enjoyed were The Wrath of the Dawn and its sequel, even though I had some problems with the sequel. The City of Brass, Cruel Beauty, oh my god, love Cruel Beauty, and Cinder. You'll notice those are all fantasy. I actually don't read much contemporary, everyday stuff with no strange or supernatural elements. I don't know. I just tend to lean toward the weird and fantastic. Favorite books and authors? I have a full list on Goodreads, which, when I say full, I mean really full. It's really comprehensive. I hate when people ask, so what are your top 5 favorite books? Though Let the Right One In is definitely my favorite. I also like romantic and Victorian literature. Wow, that's not a word. I like Victorian literature, the Gothic stuff. Dracula, Frankenstein, Carmilla, Oscar Wilde, The Bay. I like Faust, most adaptations. I actually did my senior seminar paper on queer feminist theory and Faust adaptations. It was called Queer as Hell. I like to expand it to talk about queerness and Paradise Lost, but pretty much the big reason I chose that fancy theory, Judith Butler and whatnot, was so I could write 20 pages about how I shipped Faust and Mephistopheles, because it's totally a thing. Also, humans and demons for the win. Some books I've read in 2018. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter is a murder mystery of the daughters of characters from Victorian literature. Rosemary's Baby, of course. Nailbiter is a horror comic about a town where serial killers are born, and I really enjoyed it. I actually don't read that much like graphic novels, but I really enjoyed it. Actually, I read Saga earlier last year, and I loved it. And also, regarding Nailbiter, I'd love to see a TV adaptation of it. Fingersmith was my first Sarah Waters novel. It was basically a Victorian mystery with lesbian leads, which is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. My Best Friend's Exorcism is an 80s nostalgia horror comedy, and it was a lot of fun. And The Hate You Give was great. As I said, I don't usually read contemporary, but it was incredibly engaging, and I loved the characters. I couldn't stop reading and was sad when it ended. Here's a plan. Here's a plan of a list. Here's a list of what I plan to read soon. I'm currently reading Strange Practice, which is a horror mystery. I'm especially excited for The Left Hand of Darkness. So, I mentioned I write. Well, I've been writing for a very long time, since first grade. I wrote a mystery with a third grade girl because I thought she'd be a very mature protagonist compared to 7-year-old me. I mostly write adult and new adult. Not so much YA, because while YA can have some tough themes, trust me, I read a lot of Ellen Hopkins in high school. I feel like the tone and focus is more on a darker and more college age theme in each of those stories that I'm writing, because I feel like the search for identity when you're in your early 20s is much different than when you're a teenager, even though they have their similarities. I have, God, so many projects. So many projects. I keep a spreadsheet to keep track of them all, but my first published book will be available October of this year, and that is Dovekeeper. That's the official cover by Victoria Davies. It's a gothic horror mystery set in World War I France, and how to put this? My distant relatives were French executioners. In the 19th and 20th centuries, they operated the guillotine. The most well-known executioner was Anatole Diebler, who executed 400 men. This story has a fictionalized version of his family, and I guess to an extent my family represent, I guess. So I wanted to do a story about them, but I didn't really want to do anything without a supernatural edge, so I combined it with another idea, and it kind of has a dark fairy tale vibe. It's basically about child disappearances in Reen, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's really amazing writing a story with character names and places that you don't know how to pronounce because you took German in high school instead of French. Anyway, the main characters in the story are Marcy, Anatole's daughter, and Joan, a girl who lives in a manor full of people who act rather oddly. Marcy and Joan befriend each other, and after some issues with her mom, Marcy visits Joan at the manor, and strange things start happening. That's the gist of it without spoiling too much. There are 3 POVs, Marcy, Joan, and Marcy's mother, Rosalie. They are all heroes in the story, and I wanted a mother-daughter dynamic since I feel like that's rare to see in a lot of stories. So, that's Dovekeeper. It's going through a final edit, and hopefully once it's done it'll be available for pre-order, and I can do some more cool stuff with it. What will I focus on with this channel? My aim is to focus on books and possibly movies and the genres I like, because I watch a ton of horror movies and follow a lot of horror channels. maybe some writing stuff, if I feel I can offer anything new, because I know there are a ton of writing channels. I do have some strong opinions, also known as hot takes, I could go on forever about when it comes to story and certain pieces of comic advice I actually kind of hate. I could also talk about the publishing process and speak more about some of my projects, though that might come later if anyone's interested. Also, I'm really into analyzing other media like games, especially horror games. I play some indie games in my free time, and I'm really into fictional games like the Amnesia series and especially Soma, which blew me away. Even though it was sci-fi and I normally like gothic horror, it was just amazing. But I have so many feelings, it's hard to organize them. And, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching. If you stayed this long, here's a baby bat for your efforts. Have a good one.